Smooth aim is the single most undervalued mechanical skill in all of Apex Legends. Throughout Apex's lifetime, most people, including myself, have seen smooth aim as something that's satisfying to perform and view. Nothing more, nothing less. Fast forward to recent times and you'll hear talk of recoil smoothing, whether that be from pred players or rookie players. High-ranked players, both on controller and MNK, have been making claims that recoil's never been easier to control. They've been saying it's essentially nullified due to recoil smoothing. Funnily enough, that's a mechanic achieved through smooth aim. I think it's safe to say that the Apex community has finally recognized the importance of smooth aim, and I for one plan on sharing every bit of information I have on the topic. By the end of this video, hopefully I've helped you beautiful people work towards something that will allow you to perform at your best. Sensitivity. The first thing that I need to establish is that sensitivity and smooth aim have very little overlap. In reality, they don't have anything to do with each other. As long as you have the required mouse control from playing and getting that experience in, smooth aim really shouldn't be a problem whether you're on high sense or low sense. The one caveat with high sense is that any mistake you make will be exacerbated. Your mouse is more sensitive to the input you produce. Tension. Arguably the most important factor when trying to achieve smooth aim is body tension. Tightness in your wrist, shoulder, thumb, elbow, etc. Any tightness throughout your body will end up having a drastic negative impact on your ability to move smoothly. Unfortunately, a lot of us gamers are playing on less than ideal setups. The reason I'm bringing this up is because ergonomics do come into play when you're talking about smoothness within your aim. The main thing that I see from players is a high shoulder position. If your desk is too high up or your chair too low to the ground, you're going to have to raise your shoulder in order to be moving. Obviously, this adds not only friction on the mouse pad, but unnecessary tension and a loss of range of motion in the shoulder. So if you can, try and find a way to work around that. But at the end of the day, not everyone's going to be able to do something about their setup, so just be mindful of what it is that you are doing. For those of you who find your shoulder in this position, when gaming, I'm going to suggest something that's potentially unheard of, alright? Hear me out. You may have some slight muscle weakness causing you to go into this bad position, and honestly, if you really care about your in-game aim and smooth aim, performing at your best, consider some shoulder exercises. And if you're straight up not going to do any exercises to address that issue, just practice rolling the shoulders back, keeping relaxed, and in general, just avoid that super forward hunch position. As for actually executing smooth aim, how do you do that? Well, let me tell you, it's not that hard. You just have to think about it, and you have to practice these motions because they may not be natural to you yet. The in-game exercise that I used that helped me the most was to select a target, get right up in their face, and strafe in circles all around. The closer a target is, the more you're going to have to move your arm, wrist, etc. to track them efficiently. This is going to teach you to use your entire mouse pad while utilizing your entire range of motion. And while you may be tempted to change your sensitivity during this exercise, I don't think you really should, because at the end of the day, you are compensating for something you're uncomfortable with, which is going to show up later on anyway. Smooth tracking at long range can be a bit more complicated. There's a lot less muscle groups involved, so you have to be a lot finer and a lot more intentional with your movements. For this, I really suggest you just grip the mouse as lightly as you can and worry more about moving your fingers than your wrist. Really, this is something you're gonna have to play around with, so feel free to let me know what works for you guys down below. Also, for those of you who suffer with tension in your forearm or wrist, I'm gonna suggest that you stop death gripping your mouse, or maybe even find a bigger or lighter mouse. Whenever you squeeze your mouse, all the tiny little muscles in your forearm end up working overdrive, and that's not really helpful for your aim at all, and later down the line can cause injuries, so avoid it. And if for whatever reason you don't want to have a relaxed grip or buy a new mouse if you can always try toggle aim. It's entirely free to do and will remove some of the tension from your forearm due to being able to relax your middle finger. I will warn you that it's going to feel pretty weird at first, but give it some time, your body will get used to it, and you might end up liking it. I do. Other than that, just practice staying cool, staying calm, and don't let that anxiety eat you up in clutches. If you guys are enjoying the video, don't forget to like and sub. It really helps me out a lot, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Range of motion. In a game like Apex, it's really important that you're comfortable within a large range of motion. We play a game that has a lot of verticality and a lot of fast movements. In close range fights, you're going to have to be super comfortable with making large sweeping motions, otherwise you're going to have a hard time winning that fight. The biggest tip I can give for getting comfortable with a larger range of motion is to simply practice it. Unfortunately, the only real way to get better at this is through exposure. If you struggle with up close fights, you can do the exercise I listed previously, or you can just keep getting smacked by Octane stimming point blank. Another thing a lot of players have an issue with is Octane pads and horizon lifts. Vertical motions for a lot of people are super uncomfortable, so if you can, get a buddy in the firing range and practice pulling down or going up. I notice that paying attention to where my mouse is for vertical movements helps me a lot. If I'm expecting a horizon to go up, I might place my mouse on my mouse pad a little bit lower, or if I'm expecting an Octane to zip across from left to right, I'll put my mouse on the left side of my mouse pad so I can make the movement towards the right. Really, you just need to get comfortable with using your entire range of motion. Figure out where your body feels comfortable and why it feels comfortable. Pay active attention to how your wrist, elbow, and shoulder feel in order to achieve comfortable and smooth tracking. Syncing up movement. This is the mistake that probably makes me cringe the most. I often see a lot of people standing still when they could be utilizing recoil smoothing through strafes and tracking. To fully minimize recoil through recoil smoothing, either you or your target need to move. If both of you stood still, you're going to be experiencing 100% of that recoil, and nobody wants that. You need to figure out what kind of movements work with what weapons at what ranges. Something I just found out recently is that at extreme ranges, with the Revenant's crawling passive, you can actually beam people extremely easy. The movement speed you get from your crawling is just enough to use recoil smoothing with the 301 at ridiculous ranges. The main way that I make sure that I'm always using recoil smoothing mid-fight is through strafing opposite of what my enemy's doing. If they're strafing to my right, I'll strafe to my left. Anytime that you're mirroring, you're pretty much experiencing 100% of the recoil, so I'd avoid that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to check me out at twitch.tv/genericheadboy. Hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.